Welcome everyone to the Graduate Student Orientation for 2025-2026. My name is Jennifer Skiza and I'm the Interim Director of Graduate Studies. And together with Kayra Owens, our Assistant Director of Research and Graduate Studies, we're going to share some helpful information with you today. We'd like to officially welcome you to CMU. We're really excited to have you here. And you can find us in our office locations, which are shown here on the slide. And there's our phone number and email as well. So the first thing we want you to know is where can you get help this week, right? You're new on campus, you're just getting started. So today we're going to share some sort of big picture information with you, but really you need to be in touch with your program and your department. So please make sure you know who your advisor is by the end of this first week. Even before classes start is the best, so that you make sure you're registered in the correct classes. If you're in a professional program, your advisor is probably someone who's called like your program advisor. Again, they help with choosing classes, making sure you're taking them in the right order, staying on track, and can help guide you to lots of resources on campus. If you're in a research-based program, which means you're going to be doing a thesis or dissertation, you probably have a research advisor or a mentor or a committee chair. They would go by many different names, and they're going to help guide your research project as well as help you choose classes and stay on track generally. We'd like to get you familiar with something called Degree Progress. This is a really helpful tool for planning classes with your advisor. So you can see in our screenshot here where you can find the Degree Progress link. And as you take classes, there will be populated in the Degree Progress, and they will also indicate which classes you still need to yet to take and finish in order to complete that degree. So each semester you want to work with your advisor to pick those courses. You can change concentrations within your program. Usually, most programs have some flexibility within the program. Just to say that it's not necessarily as straightforward to actually change programs. That would require a new admission and a new application. Okay, so just ask all the questions you need to of that advisor and make sure you know who that person is. The Graduate Bulletin is another great resource for all of our graduate students on campus. So you can see the link here on this slide. It has information on many policies. We'll talk about a few of them today, but there are many more in the Graduate Bulletin. So if you have questions about financial aid or just general university resources, the Code of Student Rights, degree requirements for the university, all of that information is in the Graduate Bulletin. We do expect students to be generally knowledgeable about all of our policies and the processes related to your education. Your CMU email is activated when you activate your Global ID, and it's really important to check that CMU email account regularly. All official communications will be sent only to that CMU or CMISH email account, such as tuition statements, registration notifications, messages from faculty, from classes, and all of the communications from our office in Graduate Studies.
Hello everyone, my name is Kayra Owens and I'm the Assistant Director in Research and Graduate Studies, and I'm going to go over the next few slides with you. So you might be wondering, what exactly is the Office of Graduate Studies? You've probably, I'm sure, already interacted with admissions, and so you're familiar with that. But to give you some information about what our office does, we handle things like student grants. We also do things like hosting social events for our graduate students and also professional development events and workshops. We also do a few other events like our 3-minute thesis competition, which I'll be talking about later, as well as an event called SCREE, which is the Student Creative and Research Endeavors Exhibition. Our office also handles questions from graduate students, and we handle policies that relate to all graduate students here at CMU. So if you have a question that your program really can't answer, or if you have an issue that comes up, our office can probably assist you with things like that. Our website has a ton of information that graduate students find helpful. So you'll definitely want to go out and check that out. Go to orgs.cmich.edu and then click on Graduate Studies. You'll be able to check out all kinds of forms, deadlines. You'll be able to see our events there and just be able to keep in touch and see what's going on and keep up to date as far as things going on with your program in relation to graduate studies as well. So let's talk about some of the grants that are available for graduate students. The first one is our PECP grant. This is the Student Performance, Exhibition, Competition, or Presentation Grant. This is a grant that's available for students who are going to a conference or a competition or are having their work exhibited someplace other than here at CMU. So this grant will cover travel expenses related to that work. And for all of these grants, we have guidelines posted on our website as well as the actual application form. And we have specific application deadlines for these grants. For the PECP grant, we have an application deadline in fall, in spring, and in summer. So depending on where your event lands in one of those semesters, then you'll definitely want to get your application in by that specific deadline. Then we have a Student Endeavors Grant. This is for expenses related to your research or your creative work. So if you need to purchase supplies or equipment related to your research, or if you need to do travel in order to do your research or your creative work, this grant would cover those types of expenses. And then we also have a summer program for arts and research called the SPAR Grant. This grant also provides funding for expenses related to your research or creative work, but also provides a stipend for you to be able to really dedicate your time during the summer. So it provides you a stipend to really dedicate at least half of your time during that summer semester toward your project. So that is the SPAR grant. And then we have a couple more grants. One is the Graduate Publication Grant. We really do try to encourage graduate students to publish whenever possible. Unfortunately, that sometimes is associated with a pretty significant cost. And so we do have a publication grant that tries to provide some funding to offset some of those costs. And then for our graduate students that have a GA position that is either a teaching or an administrative position, we have a GA conference grant, which will provide some funding if you are going to a conference for professional development. That GA conference grant is available to you as well. So again, our website is where you will want to go to check out these grants, the guidelines, the application forms, everything like that for these grants. So I mentioned that our office handles events for graduate students. So here is a very broad picture about some of the events coming up for this academic year. Obviously, this is a very broad picture. We only have one specific date right now, so you'll want to make sure that you visit our website as these dates approach. I also will regularly email. We have an email list for our graduate students that I will send emails out about these events. So don't worry, we will keep you up to date. But these are things that will give you an opportunity to network with other graduate students, meet other graduate students. It's very common, very easy for our graduate students to meet students within your own program. But it becomes very difficult to meet other graduate students in other programs. Sometimes it's hard to even know they exist. And so these events give you that opportunity in a very casual, very relaxed environment. And so that's exactly what we want to provide for you. So coming up in September, the end of September, we're going to have a potluck at a local park here, have some games, just very casual time where you can meet other graduate students, have a bite to eat, and just get together. The weather is usually amazing here in Michigan in the fall. So it should be a great time. And then in November, and then again in the spring, usually in March, we have what's called Trivia Night, where we actually partner with a local restaurant who actually hosts Trivia Night. And so before trivia night, we will offer some free appetizers, a time where you can get together with graduate students, have a discount on a drink of your choice, and then just meet some people, get to know some people, and then you can participate in trivia night later that night if you'd like to there at the restaurant. Last year, we did a presentation skills workshop for the first time, and it was a great hit. So helpful for our graduate students. They found it incredibly helpful, and so we're going to offer that again this coming January, so watch for that. And then along the same lines is the 3-minute thesis competition. So if you haven't heard of this, it's an incredible opportunity, not just to participate, but even just to watch and see some of the research that's being done here on campus by our graduate students, and to be able to see them communicate this research in a way where they get 3 minutes, literally 3 minutes, and they get one PowerPoint slide, and they have to express what's going on in their research in a way that anyone can understand it. So take something super complicated from physics or from math or from psychology or from any field, and be able to explain that to anyone in a way that they're going to understand and appreciate in 3 minutes. That's what this competition is. It is so amazing, so worthwhile to participate in, to come and watch these students. They've spent a lot of time. It's a very challenging skill to learn and to master, is figuring out how to express what you're doing in your research to anyone. And so I would really encourage you to explore this 3-minute thesis competition. Check it out. I think you'll love it. So again, in March, we got trivia night again. And then in April, I mentioned SCREE. This is the Student Creative and Research Endeavors Exhibition. This happens every April here on campus. This is actually for both undergraduate and graduate students. This gives students an opportunity to show campus what they're doing in their research or creative work. It's an event, it's only 2 hours long, where we have live performances, but also students can have an area with either a table or an easel to have a poster. It's just a great opportunity to show anyone who wants to come what you've been working on for the past year or even longer. So check that out. It's SCREE in April in 2026. So now I'm going to move into some of our policies for graduate students. And you might think, oh, really? We're going to talk about policies? But these are some of the most crucial things for our graduate students. These are things that will apply to you as a graduate student. And these are things that are really important for you to know. So we're going to go through them briefly, but hopefully thoroughly. Again, if you have any questions about these policies later, feel free to reach out to our office anytime. When it comes to course load for our graduate students, grad students can take 15 credit hours each semester. Now, some programs are able to take more than 15 credit hours, but 15 credit hours is the typical maximum. Students can take more than 15 by using an academic load exception form that's available on our website. So let's say you need to take 16 or 17. That's absolutely possible. Just look for that form on our website. Does the number of credit hours change, excuse me, if I'm a graduate assistant or a GA? If you're a GA, you must have at least 6 credit hours, 6 graduate credit hours each semester that you hold that GA position. Now, the number of credit hours that are covered by your GA will depend on whether you're a full-time GA or a half-time GA. You should really speak with your advisor about that, and also Faculty Personnel Services, who does the paperwork for your GA position, can also answer questions about that. For our international students are typically required to be registered for at least 9 credit hours, graduate credit hours minimum. If you have questions about that, our international office can answer those questions. And then students that are needing to use financial aid or be eligible for financial aid also need to be registered for that 9 credit hour minimum. Our Office of Scholarships and Financial Aid can answer any questions that you have regarding those requirements. If you have credit from a prior coursework, so you did graduate level coursework at a different institution and you're wondering, can I use that coursework here at CMU? It may be possible. What you'll want to do is you'll definitely want to check with your graduate advisor in your program. CMU has a transfer credit policy, and that policy states that a maximum of 50% of your credits from your program can come from a prior degree. Now, those courses from a prior degree, they need to be earned within the time to complete requirement. So you'll need to meet with your advisor and make sure that they fit within the time to complete requirement. And it's also up to your program whether or not they will accept those courses. So just because you've taken them, just because you think that they should apply here at CMU, does not necessarily mean that they will. You will definitely want to speak with your graduate advisor here. There's also an option for what we have is called credit by exam. So if you're looking at a course here at CMU and you think, I have the knowledge in that course already, perhaps you've been working in that field already, and you think, oh, I know the content of that course. Speak with your graduate advisor to see if credit by exam is an option for that course. Again, that is completely up to your program, whether they offer credit by exam for any of the courses in your program. So definitely speak with your graduate advisor about any possibilities like that. Let's talk about some academic expectations for you as a graduate student. What type of GPA do you need as a graduate student? You are expected that you will have a cumulative GPA of at least a 3.0 during your time as a graduate student here. If your cumulative graduate GPA falls below a 3.0, you will land on what's called academic probation. Once you land on academic probation, you will have 2 semesters of enrollment to bring that GPA up to a 3.0. However, if you were admitted with stipulations, it's incredibly important that you meet the requirements of those stipulations. The most common stipulation is that you earn a 3.0 within your first 6 or 9 credit hours of your program. If you're wondering, gosh, I don't know if I was admitted with stipulations, go back and look at your admission letter. It would clearly outline in that admission letter if you were admitted with stipulations. Those stipulations are important because if you do not meet those stipulations, you can be dematriculated immediately. So those are incredibly important. Also, you might be wondering, what if I do terrible in one course? Can I retake that course? Yes, you can. CMU offers, it's a course repeat policy. So if you take a course, you are able to then repeat that course 2 times after that point. So you will want to pay attention to any program handbook that your program might have to see if your program has any other more specific or more stringent requirements. For example, if your program has specialized accreditation and that accrediting body has more stringent requirements, then your program has to follow them. So really pay attention to your program handbook if your program has one, and make sure you know if your program allows or has any requirements or limitations on course repeats. So how about how long you have to complete your degree? If you are a master's student, or a specialist student, or you're here completing a graduate certificate, you have 7 years to complete your degree. If you're here completing a PhD or a doctoral degree, and you have a previous master's degree, then you have 8 years to complete that degree. If you do not have a previous master's degree, then you have 10 years to complete that doctoral or a PhD degree. If you do not finish your degree within that time frame, there is an exception that will give you some more time. It's called an extension of time that will extend the validity of your courses to give you more time. But it's really important to understand that an extension of time is not a given. It's a pretty significant exception. And so please do not just plan on getting an exception, getting in that extension of time. Plan on graduating within that 7 years or 8 or 10 years, depending on your situation. Life happens, and so it might sound like a lot of time, 7 or 8 or 10 years to graduate with your degree, but it's amazing how much life happens. And so please just be diligent and move through your program as quickly and as thoroughly as you can, and complete as quickly as you can to move through and complete. I believe those are the most important policies that we wanted to highlight today, so I'm going to pass it back to Jennifer.
All right. So I want to just say a few words about academic integrity. So we know our CMU graduate students are coming from a variety of undergraduate institutions throughout the state of Michigan and around the whole world. So it's important to be familiar with the policies that we have here on campus, and most importantly, in each course you take. So each instructor is going to have a syllabus, and they're going to have their own rules and policies that you need to follow. So make sure that you are reading the syllabus for every class you have. And you can see the QR code there is a link to the CMU overall academic integrity policy. Most of the time when we see issues come up, it's because students are collaborating or working together when they're not supposed to. So please avoid any unapproved collaboration. We don't see this next one happen as often with graduate students, but sometimes students will upload material to these third-party websites like Chegg or Course Hero. And please know the faculty are familiar with these sites, and this is a violation of our academic integrity policies. Do not do this. Depending on the course, there may be devices that are not allowed to be used, so please avoid that. And we want you to avoid plagiarism, and I'll say a few more words about that on the next slide. So our academic integrity policy does not allow students to submit text or any other products that were generated by generative AI tools as your own original work. Okay, so AI is obviously a really hot topic. We know there's a lot of tools. We know that this can really make our lives easier in a lot of ways, but there's an important distinction to make. Again, if the instructor is telling you and giving you specific guidelines that you may not use those generative AI tools and that you need to submit your own original work, then please follow those instructions. You may also be in some courses where the instructor wants you to use those generative AI tools so you can get familiar with them and use them in ethical ways. So again, we're not saying never use it, but make sure you know when it's okay to use and not okay. And then more generally, please avoid plagiarism. So please do not submit any work that was published by someone else as your own. You always want to explain things in your own words. You can use proper citations when you are taking ideas from a publication. If you are directly quoting someone and you just think, oh, they said it perfectly, then you just put quotation marks around that and you add the citation so we know who the author was and we're giving them credit for that. Even if you are paraphrasing, you want to still use those proper citations to give credit to the person whose idea you are explaining in your own words. And that's true not only for writing, but diagrams and code as well. And then plagiarism also can occur when you are submitting another student's work or you're sharing your work with another student. So it's not just a problem to use work that's already been published. And most of you are probably really familiar with these types of policies, but again, we know institutions vary, and so we just want to make sure you're familiar with our policies here at CMU. On those same kind of topic, we have a Code of Student Rights, Responsibilities, and Disciplinary Procedures. This code establishes all the procedures that we follow. It outlines some of the possible consequences for students who violate the code of conduct. And this is not just about academics, this is about just kind of overall expectations for professional and ethical behavior. So any disciplinary procedures that are outlined in our policy don't replace or substitute any law enforcement agencies that might also need to be involved. So hopefully none of this will be a problem for you, but this document is available through Student Affairs, and you can see the website right there. Okay, we're going to shift gears and talk a little bit about some information for students who are in programs that incorporate a major research project. So if you are in a graduate program that is a master's program that is a type we call Plan A, which means you'll be writing a thesis, or a doctoral program where you will be writing a dissertation, we have some helpful guidelines on our website. So one of those helpful tips is to make sure everybody understands what can happen before your prospectus is approved. Your prospectus is basically the proposal of what kind of research you plan to carry out, and you get help from your advisor to write that prospectus. And it usually takes a bit of time. Depending on your program, it might take 1, 2, 3, or even 4 semesters to write that prospectus. But what's important to know is you can register for a maximum of only 3 thesis credits or 6 dissertation credits prior to the approval of your prospectus. So make sure you have a good plan, don't procrastinate, get that prospectus written and approved by your committee so that you're able to register for the courses you need to take. You'll also need to determine if you need approvals from any of our review boards. So these are the kind of boards that exist on all campuses. If you're working with humans or non-human vertebrate animals and cephalopods or recombinant DNA, you're going to need certain approvals from either IRB or IACUC or the IBC boards. And it's really important to start thinking about who's going to be on your committee. You don't have to do that right away, but sometime, usually by the end of the first semester, that's a discussion you'll be having with your advisor. And you'll need to know the members of your committee before you can submit that prospectus. The committee members are going to help you, guide you, answer questions along the way, and are usually people who have some expertise in the area that you are researching. And as I said earlier, just to reiterate, planning ahead. Kind of make a master plan for each semester, kind of that long-term plan to make sure that you won't be caught off guard. And as I mentioned, there's a full document on getting started on research projects on our website. It also explains how you'll submit that prospectus. And then later on, when you're getting ready to submit your thesis or dissertation, we have very clear and thorough guidelines for writing that thesis and dissertation. So make sure you are looking out for those as well. We also offer workshops for the thesis and dissertation, which we'll remind you of when you get closer to that stage. Now, shifting gears away from academics, we want to make sure everybody knows about some of the general resources that are available to students, all of our students on campus. We have a counseling center, a food pantry, GA tuition waiver information if you have a graduate assistantship. We have really helpful centers for writing, for help with math, statistics, a presentation skills center. All of those centers are located in our library. It's called Park Library, centrally located right across from the Bovee University Center. The library itself offers a lot of helpful services, so if you need help getting started on research, you might make an appointment with one of our librarians. And we also have a great student disability services office. So many resources. Again, our QR code will lead you to our website that has links to each of these different resources on campus. And if you're wondering about anything that's not listed here or on our website, please reach out and ask, and we'll try to connect you with the helpful resource, whether it's on our campus or just in Mount Pleasant or locally. And for IT help, I almost forgot to mention, but the help desk, which is also located in the first floor of our library building, if you have problems with your computer or anything IT related, the help desk is really helpful, just like their name suggests. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Kara to close things out.
Yeah, in relation to student resources, but with the lens of campus safety and emergency management, there's some really helpful things across campus that you might have already noticed. You might have noticed some poles across campus with a blue light on top. Those will have some ability for you to reach out to CMU police directly at those poles. So if you need assistance and for whatever reason, maybe your cell phone is dead or anything like that, please reach out using those blue light phones. If you want to register your bike, you're able to do that with CMU Police. They also have an app that's pretty cool, the Rave Guardian app. You can do things through that app that can be pretty helpful for your safety. You can share your location with a friend, things like that. If you're not familiar yet with the central alert system, go ahead and just Google that on CMU's site, and you'll be able to make sure that your cell phone is registered so that you will get the automatic phone calls if anything is happening on campus, or if we are lucky enough to get a snow day occasionally, you'll get those alerts as well. If you're wondering if we have a snow day, you can always call the CMU information line, which is the number listed there, and they will let you know if there are any delays on campus or if there's anything going on. Also, through CMU Police or CMU's website, you can search for emergency preparedness. And on that website, you can find all kinds of information. You can find a map for each of the buildings on campus and see exactly where the tornado shelters are, the emergency plans for each building, everything like that. You can find information just about all kinds of things here on campus in case of emergencies, all kinds of different emergencies on campus. So we want you to feel comfortable. We want you to feel safe here at CMU. And so please know that CMU Police, in consultation with multiple areas, have done a lot of work in that vein. So please feel free to search for that, take a look at that, and check it out. So I believe that is the end of today's orientation. So please, again, check out Grad Studies website and reach out to our office if there's anything that we can help you with, and fire up chips.
Fire up chips. Thank you for coming.